Hey guys, this is Brendan. I just got finished watching the Mortal Kombat 11 reveal event. I wanted to make a video primarily going over the technical aspects of the game and how they've changed things from the previous games to the new one. So I'll have a timestamp here if you're more interested in that and you want to see how does the meter system work and how does Fatal Blow work and all these other things they've added to the game and some really technical stuff for specific characters. You can skip to that timestamp so that way you can view that. And in the beginning of the video we'll just talk about the more surface level stuff like the UI and how the game looks and fatalities. So if you're interested in that too, you can just stick around at this part. Otherwise you could skip to the future part of the video to talk about specifically the fighting and I'll have some footage up of the pro matches that they had going on. So, first of all, the game looks fucking gorgeous. Like, it just looks amazing. They actually really improved on the graphics compared to the previous games. I don't know if Sonya's face looks the way it does because she's old. I assume so, because Scarlet looks good, but the previous curse in NetherRealm was always that they couldn't make a female face. Like, they could never render a female face properly without making them look horrible, but I don't know, it seems like they're doing pretty good with this game. And so far, the playable characters that they've shown have been Scorpion, Scarlet, Raiden, Sonya Blade, Sub-Zero, Garrus, I think is his name, Garrus, whatever, and Baraka. But also in the cinematic story, they showed off Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Shinnok, and a new character that seems related to Garrus in some way, but those are the characters that have been shown so far. And yes, the game is just as gory as you'd expect it to be. There's plenty of fatalities per character. They didn't confirm if there'd be brutalities or not. They said they didn't know as of yet. They may be, there might not be. We didn't see any. And then you have Fatal Blow is what it's called, and that's replacing X-ray attacks. So the X-ray attacks are essentially still in. I'll go in more in depth on how they work later on in the video. There's also something in the game called a crushing blow that can happen from time to time, and it causes kind of like similar to an X-ray or a Fatal Blow. It causes like a little zoom in effect. So there's lots of moves in the game that cause these little like X-ray animations, and you still have the fatalities. And they said that they're making this game even more gory than the previous ones, which I didn't know that was even possible. But for you gore monsters out there, I'm sure that's mad hype. And the last thing I wanted to go over before we get into like the competitive aspect of the game and all the technical details is that they said they're going to have a customization feature in the game. So in Mortal Kombat X, you had 3 variations of a character that you could pick. In this game, you still have 3 variations of a character you can pick by default, but you can actually customize them yourself. I assume the way tournament play will work is that you can only use the 3 like preset stock ones for the character, but online play you can probably do like customize it however you want. It said you could even customize like your win screens and like your victory poses and stuff. You can customize there's 3 attributes per character that you can customize, so 3 things about them, it'll change the look. You can make all these different combinations to make your character look really cool, and you can also augment them, which will change how your character plays. An interesting thing to note about it, and like I said, I'll touch more on this later, is that some of the attributes cause like characters to have things they normally couldn't, like which makes sense because, like I said, in the previous game that's how it worked. Like, for example, your neutral jump punch in the previous Mortal Kombat games, every characters gave them a ground bounce. In this game, they do not. But I was told in the video, on the Twitch stream, that one of Scorpion's attributes, like one of his variations, allows him to still get that ground bounce on the neutral jump punch. So I give you some insight into how that changes things up. Okay, so on some more analysis of the competitive aspects of the game. So we'll analyze the UI for a bit. So with the health bar has actual numbers for health values, and everyone's health seems to be at a value of 1,000 from what I saw. So it doesn't look like there's going to be any characters that have different health values, which sometimes happens in fighting games. The combo counter shows the numerical value of how much damage has been done to you, so you can see the actual value of damage done to you deducted from your health bar. I know Injustice had this feature as well, but still really neat. Definitely doesn't take away from anything, it only adds, so it's a welcome change. What's interesting though is that when your health bar gets below 30%, you gain access to what's called your Fatal Blow. The Fatal Blow is the replacement for X-rays. It's this game's super move mechanic. It's a separate resource from the meter bar. It does have armor, but the armor is not on frame 1. So what that means is that you can be hit out of the fatal attack startup, so you can't use it as like an invincible wake up attack, but once the move has actually begun to start up, that's when it gains an armor property, and you can blow through an attack or like a projectile or something like that to hit them. Now, if you miss a fatal blow, like if it's blocked or whiffed, you actually don't completely lose it. It'll go on cooldown and eventually come back over time. So it's its own separate resource, and if you miss it or if it's blocked, you eventually get it back a little bit over time. Granted, you are below 30% health, so how long you'll live after missing it, probably not that long to actually get it back, so I don't think that's much of a big deal. That's why when I first heard of it, when I first heard them explaining it, I was like, that's clearly designed to be very beginner friendly, which can be good for fighting games, but also can be bad. The fact that it's its own separate resource, I don't really like, because normally in fighting games, your super is like your meter bar. They're tied together. So you essentially have to make a choice. Do I want to use my super to hit them, or do I want to save my meter for other stuff? And it can make comebacks a little bit more clutch. By making meter a separate resource from this, it gives them a comeback mechanic on top of their meter, which I feel like will make comebacks really strong, but that remains to be seen. Now, you only get one fatal blow per match, so that means if you hit someone with a fatal blow during round 1, you can't use a fatal blow in round 2, or if it goes to round 3, you can't use it in round 3 either. Even if your health goes below 30%, it'll be grayed out. I feel like something really funny that you could do to somebody day 1 is you could actually intentionally let someone land a fatal blow on you if they're trying to make a comeback, so just so that they can't use it later on. So let's say I have a huge life lead in round 1 and I have somebody below 30% health. If they do like their fatal blow, you just like get hit by it on purpose just so that they can't use it. But I feel like anybody who's a smart player isn't gonna do that though. Sonic Fox was even saying himself that he feels that fatal blow is best used as a way to guaranteed close out the round, which it seems that makes sense, because let's say you're doing a combo on someone and you know fatal blow is going to close it out. You might as well just cash it out and end the round. Whereas say you're in the midst of making a combo and fatal blow won't kill, but it'll bring their health down a lot. You might not want to do that, because if you fatal blow them and then you bring them all the way down, you're either going to give them a fatal blow now that you no longer have, or either way you still have to make that comeback afterwards, and then if you don't, you lost your fatal blow and you lost the round. Whereas if you keep trying to make the comeback until your fatal blow will kill, then you at least have an opportunity to, once you get a hit, you can be like, all right, I'm going to cash out my fatal blow and kill them. And that seems that might be the best use for that, so I'd keep that in mind unless they make changes to it between now and then. You'll also notice that there's 2 meter bars. So there's a defense bar, which has 2 pieces to it, and there's an offense bar, which also has 2 pieces to it. The offensive bar is used for meter burning special moves. It's also used for adding armor to interactables. It seems that the offensive is really just for meter burning and adding armor to things, and the defensive is for your defensive options, such as interactables, and your wake up attacks. So there's 2 ways to perform the wake up attack. So there's up 2 and there's up 3. Up 3 is a move that basically makes the character advance forward, and they'll just do a little bit of damage, but it's completely invulnerable. So you don't get much reward for if it hits, but it's completely invulnerable. Now the other option is up 2, in which the character will do like an uppercut, where they'll like a launcher. Now this one is actually not invulnerable on startup, so you can't use it as a wake up attack, but if somebody's jumping in at you a bit late or something like that, then you can hit them out of the air and get a full combo if they messed up. Both of them do require the cost of one of your offensive bars and one of your defensive bars to do either of them. Yeah, and I don't think there's actually a combo breaker in the game, which is interesting because every Mortal Kombat game has had that. I think the reason why there's not really a combo breaker in the game is because they said that they're not really trying to have a whole lot of combos in the game to begin with. They said that they're toning down combos, they're toning down moves that launch you and pop you up. I saw Scarlet put in some work and doing quite a few combos myself, so I think when people have their hands on the game, they probably will find some pretty long combos, but I could be wrong. However, yeah, you'll notice there's no way to use your meter for a combo breaker. Really important to note is that meter is not built in this game. By attacking or defending or anything, you don't build it, it's a cooldown, just like a MOBA. And also in classic NRS fashion, you cannot throw people out of armor in this game like you can in most fighting games. It's pretty true to most NRS games. So if somebody meter burns a move and it gains armor or an interactable or something, you can't throw them out of the startup of it. The armor will absorb the throw as if it were a hit. Okay, so I just discussed pretty much everything that you see on the UI, the health bar, the timer. There's not really much to discuss with the timer. I've noticed it gets a lot closer to 0 than a lot of other fighting games do, such as Dragon Ball FighterZ, which the timer on that game is like 900 or some bullshit like that. And then we discussed the 2 meter bars, the offensive and defensive. And then we also talked about the fatal blow that you get when you're under 30% health. So now I want to talk about movement and some of the other mechanics in the game. But the first important and noticeable thing about movement is that there's no more run mechanic anymore. So they've completely taken that out. You can still dash a short distance forward, and after you dash you can cancel it into a block or a button, but from what I've understood, you can't cancel it immediately, so you are a bit vulnerable when you dash, similar to Street Fighter. So it seems like the game is a little bit more grounded, just like Street Fighter, instead of just running in at people. So it seems like the game's much more grounded. I mean, they even said they increased the range in a lot of characters' normal attacks, like Scorpion was poking with his back 1. Yeah, and Scarlet's normals are even more ridiculous with the whip and her scythe. Now, still on the same topic of movement, if you tap up, you can do a short hop, which reminds me of like King of Fighters or Smash Bros. But essentially, you use the short hop to low crush. If you don't know what that means, it means that you'll basically be able to jump over any low attacks and hit them. And it's also a universal overhead. It was noted on stream that if you do a neutral jump punch in this game, in Mortal Kombat X, you'll remember if you jump straight up in the air, which is a neutral jump, and you come down with a punch, it will actually ground bounce them and knock them up into the air for a full combo. But that's no longer the case with characters in this game. However, if you do a short hop and then someone whiffs a button, and then you hit them with a neutral jump punch, I don't know if they need to whiff a button or not, it will actually ground bounce them still. And also, speaking of like crushing lows, another thing that I wanted to talk about too is the crushing blow. So I wanted to get away from movement, since that's really all there is to talk about there, and talk about the other mechanics, which crushing blow is a huge one. And crushing blow, if you play Soul Calibur, it's very similar to lethal hit, where the game is trying to reward you for fulfilling specific scenarios. And the scenario could be landing the same attack 3 times. Punishing a high attack by ducking under it and then coming up with a down 2, which is like the uppercut move. And whenever you fulfill these conditions, the game will go into a massive slowdown similar to an X-ray, and it'll typically deal a lot of damage. And sometimes it'll have different properties, like it'll do a lot of damage and then pop you up, and then you get a combo off of it, which could lead to like 40-50% damage combos. Could put you in a restand state for mix-ups, so you get a huge reward out of it. There's about 5 or 6 per character, they said, so you'll want to get to know those with your character, and then maybe prevent other people from fulfilling it with their characters, similar to, like I said, Soul Calibur. And it seems to do a pretty good chunk of damage from what I saw, the combos I saw there, which it's like day negative fucking whatever. The combos I saw there weren't really doing that much damage anyway, so comparatively it was doing like a pretty good amount of damage. So I'll show side by side crushing blow with a pretty decent Scorpion combo, so you can kind of see a comparison, I guess.
He can hold the button to throw them even further, like carry them even further.
Oh, now the fatal blow's there for Scar.
And that's the crushing blow. That
Oh my god, look at the damage!
So the way that one works is the last hit's an overhead of the string. If you duck block, you get the crushing blow. He also has a low where he does sand trap. So it's a 50-50. If they think you're going to do the low sand move, they duck. And if they get hit by that overhead, they lose 40% of their life because of the crushing blow.
You're telling me his mix-up?
His mix-up has a crushing blow on it. But,
Okay,
like Fatal Blow, he only
character.
can use that once per game.
Another mechanic that they showed off too is the flawless block. So if you're familiar with Guilty Gear, it's very similar to Just Defend, or if you play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, the perfect parry or perfect shield. So essentially, if you block right as an attack hits you, it'll reduce the frame advantage of that attack, meaning that you may be able to punish something that typically isn't punishable. So it basically allows you to break out of your opponent's pressure quicker. It significantly reduces chip damage, so it could save your life if somebody's trying to like get a chip kill on you and you're about to die. And also, when you flawless block an attack, you immediately gain access to those wake up moves that we discussed earlier that cost one of the offense bar and one of the defense bar. So you can definitely punish things pretty hard with that, and I think that's actually pretty cool, and I think that's pretty fair. Because one thing I noticed with Super Smash Bros. And with their perfect parry mechanic, sometimes you'll accidentally perfect parry something, and then since the game pauses when you do it, you can be like, oh, I accidentally perfect parried that, and the game froze to let me know, let me go ahead and counterattack. And sometimes people will pop off or get excited for a player that probably didn't even do it on purpose. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but we haven't got our hands on this game yet, but I feel like if somebody they flawless block, I almost want to call it faultless defense from Guilty Gear, but if they flawless block an attack and then they knew to spend 2 meters and hit their up 3 to punish it, I feel like they deserve it. I mean, I guess you could kind of do an option select with that, maybe, where you just, every time you hit block, you just input up 3, because if you block an attack, you're not going to get up 3. So I guess there maybe an option select you could do where you just hit block and then hit up 3 afterwards, and then it won't come out if you didn't get the actual the flawless block. But I guess we'll just have to see what they do about that. But I think it's pretty cool to give more options to punish things, but it's going to depend. It's going to take time with a lot of stuff in this game. Overall, though, what I can say, what it seems like they're doing with the game is they're making it much more grounded, much more footsie based with more normal attacks, and they're trying to get away from the whole like high-low options. In previous Mortal Kombat games, it's like, oh, I have a fast overhead that leads into ridiculous damage, and I have a fast low that leads into ridiculous damage. But it seems that they're trying to make characters have strengths and weaknesses in terms of that. They've oftentimes mentioned repeatedly that, hey, this character has a great overhead and it leads into a lot of damage, but her low really isn't that good, which I think is really cool and much more fair. So it seems that they are taking some feedback from the previous games. They're not making it as combo heavy, which is why combo breaker's been removed. So they're clearly putting a lot of thought into the mechanics. The game looks great, looks gorgeous. We'll just have to wait and see if we get more characters. My fingers are crossed for Quan Chi, because that is my boy. It's my favorite character. He's such a savage. He died, so he probably won't be in this game, but you know, Scorpion can die like 10 times per game, and that's cool, but that's fine. I didn't really go in depth on like the individual characters too much, and that's just because there really hasn't been that much that's been shown. I just kind of wanted to wait for the developers to do that. Sub-Zero doesn't have an ice clone, so if you were looking for if you're looking for an analysis on characters, he didn't get played, so, and they mentioned he doesn't have an ice clone, so rest in peace to that. And I'll be doing more Mortal Kombat tutorials on how to play the game, and some playthrough videos on it. So anytime a new fighting game comes out, I'll do my best to break it down for you guys, and I'll be playing it, entering tournaments for it, and I'll always document my tournament progress this year for each major and everything that I go to. So if you like this video and you like content like that, then just go ahead and give it a like and comment and let me know, so I will reply to you. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.